before we can enter Baldur's Gate, we have to beat Orpheus' Honor Guard, which is actually one of the tougher fights, as we can easily die here. So to help us out, we will put the Resonance Stone into our camp chest before we end the day. By putting the Resonance Stone away, we remove the psychic weakness we get from it. This greatly increases our survivability against Orpheus' Honor Guard, since most of them deal psychic damage, and in the first phase of this fight there's even a status effect that deals psychic damage every turn. And because of that, I will now put the Resonance Stone away. Any moment. There is no way I will forget something this important. Never mind then. It seems I am doing everything in my power to make this one fail. Well, at least now I have an excuse to why I skipped the first phase of this fight.
Here we go.
Anyway, once you are inside the astral prison, be sure to drink your strength elixir before making your way down to the Emperor. Since you technically started a long rest to trigger this fight, which removes all of your temporary buffs. If you want to be on the safe side, you can also do your other pre-buffs, but let's be honest here, there's only one proper way how to deal with Orpheus' Honor Guard. Once we killed all of his guards, we put Orpheus back into our control and we can safely make our way to Baldur's Gate. While we are in Rivington, our main objective is to gather as much gold as we can, because we need a shit ton of gold to buy all the stuff we need to get through the final act. So we start our journey by doing 2 minor guild encounters to get a bunch of loot that we can sell. Inside the circus we then cheat to win the jackpot for even more loot and XP, and after we cleared the jungle and got back to the circus, we will buy a statue of ourselves for 5000 gold. This statue will give us a permanent bless buff after our next long rest. Next we go to Papa and buy a bunch of potions, one of them being the elixir of Cloud Giant Strength. This is an elixir we will look out a lot for at this point, so we can slowly but surely turn this into our main strength elixir. Now, before we leave Rivington and go to Wyrm's Rock, we take out the doppelgangers at the circus and the underground. And even though they have the Mind Reader passive feature, which is a great counter against us, it's still a rather easy fight since we have so many meat shields just standing around, taking the hits for us. At level 10 we take the Ranger class. As our favorite enemy, we take the Sanctified Stalker. The Sanctified Stalker gives us proficiency in religion, which will be very helpful later when we try to pass the Mirror of Loss. And for the Natural Explorer, we take the Fire Protection, since we are going to have to deal with a decent amount of fire damage going further into this run. At Wyrm's Rock we ignore Gortash and immediately go into the prison to clear out this place for later and free Councillor Florek while we are at it. And with that we already make our way to the Lower City. There we immediately try to hunt down Dolor, so we can get access to the Murder Tribunal. We first meet him at a wine party trying to poison the host. By attacking him and the doppelgangers, he will immediately flee, forcing us to chase after him. But before we do that, we will kill the remaining doppelgangers, as this will cause the host to reward us a bunch of gold for saving her life. After that we do a quick trip to the Devil's Fee to get the Mask of Soul Perception. Now, before we fight Dolor, we kill the 2 doppelgangers at the reception, so they won't join the fight against him later. When we are doing our pre-boss, we replace the Elixir of Strength with an Elixir of Vigilance to get our initiative as high as possible to hopefully get the first move against him. But since this still doesn't guarantee our first move against Dolor, we also are going to use Sanctuary on top of our normal pre-buffs. This is very important because if he gets the first move against us and happens to hit a Paralyze against us, well, it's game over. In the end, we do get the first move against him, so nothing of this comes into play, but it's always better to be on the safe side if possible. Unfortunately, I forgot to refill my strength elixir for the first attack against him, which then was the reason I failed to kill him in the first turn. But this is not so bad, since we can just run away from him, which will then cause him to attack the paralyzed fist in front of him most of the time. He does turn invisible, but this problem is easily solved with a smoke powder arrow. With Dolor and the doppelgangers dead, we can now finally go to the murder tribunal, where we have to prove our worth to become an unholy assassin of Bhaal. This actually ended up in me breaking my oath, but it's okay. It was bound to happen at some point anyway. Anyway, the reason why I wanted to do this questline so early is because of the special trader we will get for becoming an unholy assassin. He will sell us the best armor in the entire game. The Ballast armor. The Ballast armor causes enemies within 2 meters to become vulnerable to piercing damage, which is just absolutely busted. Now we head back to Wyrm's Rock and make our way towards Ansur. Not to actually fight him, even though I admit I considered it for a brief moment, but I don't gain anything for killing him now, and there's still plenty of stuff I can do to get stronger. So there's no reason to take an unnecessary risk right now. Anyway, the reason I went here is for the Helm of Balduran. This helm is perfect for us because one of its abilities is that it will heal us at the start of every turn, which therefore will cause our poison amulet to reapply its coating to our weapon every turn, turning it into a permanent damage buff. At level 11 we take the Barbarian class, simply because this class will give us more health than the Monk class. For the fight against Viconia, we use Shriek to isolate her from the other Sharans, which allows us to safely kill her at the start of the fight without having to worry about getting attacked from all sides right after. You could also use Minor Illusion for this, but the problem with Minor Illusion here is that not all of the Sharans will immediately react to it, and some of them won't even react to it at all. So I find Shriek to be the safer option for our goal, especially because it's a lot quicker and we don't have to worry about losing any of our pre-buffs. To start the fight we use Invisible Shuffle, who will trigger the surprise attack for us. It's very important you don't use your own character to start this fight, because the Sharans are not hostile towards us when we enter the cloister, which means that our arrows of many targets will not jump between them if we choose to attack them. And with that we are already at the point how we are going to kill Viconia, even though she has an infinite sanctuary pre-buff at the start of the fight. And the answer is simply arrows of many targets. With the help of the arrows of many targets we are able to deal damage to her without having to directly target her. Once you killed her, you want to use the flying ability from the potion of flying to keep the remaining Sharans at a distance so that they can't reach you with a melee attack. When you do this, try to take out the Sharans that have a ranged attack first. This way you eliminate any chance of you potentially dying here, since the other Sharans will never be able to reach you as long as you have the flying potion up.
Still breathing.
After you killed all of the Sharons, you want to go to Shadowheart's hideout and read her note before you go to the Mirror of Loss. By reading this letter, you will find out the purpose of the Mirror of Loss, which therefore means you now only have to pass the religion check to gain access to the mirror. To help us pass this check, we use the Headband of Intellect that we got in the first act by killing Lump, and Guidance from our Cleric class. After we pass the check, we surrender one of our memories and get the Thief's memory instead, for a +2 on our Dexterity. This memory will increase both our damage and hit chance while also increasing our initiative. Having acquired this buff, it's now time to head to Bhaal's temple and kill Orin. Since it's a 50-50 chance of who gets the first move in this fight, it's important that we use Mirror Image on top of our standard pre-buffs to avoid getting completely destroyed by her. Technically we also could just use an Elixir of Vigilance to pretty much guarantee our first move, but I find using Mirror Image to be safe enough, so I didn't bother. Anyway, as always, luck is on our side and we get the first move. So we walk up to her to trigger the Aura of Murder for the double damage, and since she took the Slayer form, she now counts as a Monstrosity, which allows us to use the Monstrosity Slaying Ores on her for even more damage. This alone unfortunately is not enough to kill her without any critical hits, so I decided to use the Hamstring shot on her with our Warp Priest extra attack, to hopefully reduce her movement speed. Or we just high roll and kill her, that works as well. Now that Orin is dead, Bhaal will come to us and offer us his power, if we become his chosen. A tough choice to be made, but if you want to save the world, sometimes there are sacrifices to be made. For becoming Bhaal chosen, get the powered kill ability and the most bloody inheritance condition for the final fight. Killing Orin also gives us the Bloodthirst dagger, which means now we can finally start dual wielding 2 crit increasing weapons and get some decent crowd control out of our Warlock class. Next we head to Cazador's mansion. There we have a bunch of animal guards that we can blow up like the animal lovers we are. Which then gets us to our final level. At our final level we then take the Monk class. All of its class features are completely useless for us. However, we do get the Flurry of Blows ability, which is a bonus action attack that we can use whenever we run out of our Warp Priest charges. Now, for the fight against Cazador, I unfortunately have bad news again, as he was bugged out again. For those who saw my Necromancer run, this is exactly the same bug I also had in this one. Back then I had just thought that it must have been caused by the mods I was running in this one, and the fact that there was a big patch while I was still playing this one. But apparently it has to be something else, since I didn't use any mods in this one. Maybe I have a corrupted file somewhere from the latest patch? I don't know. I just hope that reinstalling the game will fix this problem for the next one. Anyway, there's nothing to see here, so let's move on to something more interesting. The House of Hope. At the House of Hope we actually are going to kill Halep for once, since he drops us the Helldust gloves, which will give us a slight damage increase. And for this one, I take anything I can get. Killing Halep will also trigger our Killer's Sweetheart Ring, and with the help of the Restoration Bath in Raphael's house, we can do the same trick we used against Merkel to trigger 2 Executioner reactions in one fight. Now before we go to Raphael, we grab both the Gauntlets of Hill Joint Strength and the Amulet of Greater Health. The Hill Giant Strength clause will allow us to use an Elixir of Bloodlust instead of the usual Strength Elixir without losing the extra damage we get from the Titan String. As for the Amulet of Greater Health, it will help us to remain our concentration spells, which is of utmost importance if we want to win this fight. When we do our standard process of pre-buffing before the fight, we also are going to summon Us and Shovel. Not to actually deal any damage in the fight, but to distract Yugia, as it's very likely that he will get the first move against us. When it's our turn, we will walk up to Raphael to trigger the Murder Aura ability from our armor. There is actually a spot where you can stand, which is still close enough that Raphael gets the debuff, but far enough that we won't get a penalty on our attack rolls for staying too close to him. It's a bit tricky to get this spot, but since Raphael has a rather high armor class, I believe it's worth to try to get this spot. Once we got it, we will attack him with a Fiend Slaying Arrow and also immediately trigger our first Executioner reaction. This has two reasons. First of all, we will get our first kill in this round, so next round we will already have our second Executioner reaction ready. But more important, by forcing a critical hit, we trigger the passive feature of our Warlock class, which causes Raphael to become frightened. And as long as Raphael is frightened, he will be unable to move. And this is exactly what we want. We want him to stay at this spot for the entire fight, as this allows us to constantly deal damage to him over our arrows of many targets. Now, the enemy we are going to kill first is of course Yugia, as he acts before us and also has some strong attacks. So we use our movement line to find out where he stands and then just shoot there. After that we can walk next to him and finish him off using a Fiend Slaying Arrow. Once we ended our turn, all of the Cambions will first shoot their rays of fire at us and then jump next to us, which will end up in us being surrounded. But this is exactly what we want, as this allows us to hit the maximum amount of enemies every time when we shoot our arrows of many targets, while also applying piercing vulnerability to all of them. And we also will be able to hit Raphael most of the time if we start by shooting the Cambions closest to him. After we used all of our main action points, we can use our bonus attack to throw a Paralyze Potion at the Cambions. It's unlikely that we will hit this, but I think it's better to try this than to use an actual attack on them, because we don't want to kill them too quickly, so we don't run out of targets that we can use to deal passive damage to Raphael. Alright, this is the moment I waited for. Raphael summons an internal debtor next to us, and since they have a very low armor class, we have a high chance that we will be able to hit them with a Paralyze Potion, which then allows us to force a critical hit with our arrows of many targets. But before we do this, we use one of our action points to attack Raphael directly. By doing this, we trigger the War Priest ability from our Cleric class. And now we can use our bonus action to throw the potion at the Eternal Debtor, which normally would have cost us an action point. After we used our arrows of many targets, I decided to do another direct attack on Raphael with our Blood Elixir action point. Here I'm also now forced to use my second Executioner reaction, because as you can see here, my attack roll is not high enough to hit Raphael. But by using my Executioner reaction, I can turn this attack into a critical hit, which will then hit Raphael, since critical hits can't miss. In our next turn, we use 2 arrows of many targets to kill the remaining champions, and due to the critical hit, we also got Raphael just below 100 HP, which allows us to use our special power word kill ability on him. This might have been a bit overkill, but I just wanted to be done with this fight and for once don't be greedy.
Fine day for murder.
No more devils, no more debts. With its master gone, the house is nothing more now than an empty carcass.
Back at Baldur's Gate we killed Trumbo to get Carrion's heart, which then allows us to kill him once we destroyed it.
This jar fights back.
Against Carrion we simply use invisibility to get close to him and inflict him with piercing vulnerability. We then attack him and pretty much one-shot him with an undead slaying arrow. Once Carrion is dead, we try to leave his house so that we can play hit and run with the mummies to easily take them out. In front of the Steelwatch factory, we find Volo tied to a bunch of smoke powder barrels. By throwing an invisibility potion on Scratch before we trigger the cutscene, we will be able to safely rescue him before they explode. Saving his life here is also in our interest, as we will get the Volo's Guide to Monsters condition for the final fight if we save him. Now I want to take out the Steelwatch factory before facing Gortash, as this will make the fight against him significantly easier. Also, by beating the boss inside the factory, we get a legendary bow that I would like to use in some fights. Once we are deeper inside the factory, we have to face our first 2 Hellfire Watchers. While fighting them, we want to stay next to them the entire time, as this will lead the other enemies to gather around you and the Hellfire Watchers. Now, we want to deal enough damage to the Hellfire Watcher so that he will engage his self-explode system and then teleport away. Once we ended our turn, he will explode, dealing massive damage to all the other enemies around him, even killing some of them. This allows us to ignore the other Hellfire Watcher for a short time and finish off all the remaining one-shots, which then will allow us to fight him in a 1v1. Just don't end your turn next to some explosive barrels. It doesn't end well. Once you kill the Hellfire Watchers, you can't let your guard down just yet. There is still one dangerous enemy in this area. The Black Gauntlet Pava, or however it's pronounced. He has the Phantasmal Killer spell, and since we are using the Resonance Stone, this spell can easily kill us in 1 or 2 ticks. So just take him out first and all the remaining enemies are easy pickups. Since the Steel Watchers are immune to poison and fire damage, we will use the Amulet of Greater Health and the Quadraflesh Gloves for the next boss fight. Before we start to actually fight the boss in this fight, we first take out the 3 Hellfire Watcher fighting alongside him. Taking out his allies first allows us to move around more freely, giving us an easier time to kite him. Once we took out all of the Hellfire Watcher, we can start dealing damage to the Titan. By using Misty Step scrolls, we also are able to get close to him to trigger the Murder Hour without the risk of taking a hit from him. When the Titan starts to enter his defensive protocol, you want to stay rather far away from him. 80 meters to be exact. By keeping this distance, he won't be able to target you with the Hellfire missiles, which is an attack that just straight up one-shots you. While he has entered his defensive protocol, the Titan will repair himself every turn. But this can be easily avoided since the game treats his repair like a normal heal. And this means by using our arrows of Ilmater, we can inflict the Titan with the arrow of Ilmater condition and prevent him from healing. Another option how to deal with this defensive protocol would be to use the flash binder grenades that you can buy from the Ironhead gnomes. But as you can see here, you don't need these grenades to beat the Titan. It just takes a bit longer. Anyway, now we simply repeat this process over and over again until we get him below 100 HP. Once we got him below 100 HP, we don't want to kill him, even if we could, because of his self-detonate ability, which is another ability that can just straight up one-shot us. So instead we want to build up as much distance as we can between us. And since we brought him below 100 HP, he should enable his self-detonate ability by himself. Of course, you don't actually have to run this far away from him, but I rather overdo it than being lazy and have a completely unnecessary death. Alright, now we blow up the factory, deactivating all the Steel Watchers in the process. And with that, it's finally time to pay Gortash a visit. Since we destroyed the Steelwatch factory, all of the guards inside of Wyrm's Rock will be hostile towards us. So we can no longer just walk in there. Normally fighting a large amount of enemies would be rather painful with this build, since we couldn't use the Blood Elixir without losing a big chunk of our damage output from the Titan string. But now, since we have the Gonter Mael and the Dexterity boost from the Mirror of Loss, this is no longer the case. Of course, we still lose a bit of our damage per hit, but especially against normal enemies, this doesn't make any difference. On top of that, we also have the Bolt of Celestial Light weapon action, which will increase the damage of all our attacks made by Gontail Mael by 1d4 radiant damage. Against Gortash, we also are going to use the Gontail Mael, since he still has a bunch of guards protecting him, even without the Steel Watcher. On top of that, he will be at the very end of the throne room, so it's not possible for us to snipe him anyway. Now, before you enter the throne room, make sure that you have at least 2 remove curse scrolls, so you can remove the tyrannical curse condition if Gortash happens to curse you. At the start of the fight, we simply take out the fists in front of us. They are easy targets, and as said before, we can't reach Gortash yet anyway. The only thing you have to look out for are the traps, so you don't accidentally end your turn inside of one of them. On his first turn, Gortash will activate his Reflector Guard. This condition will send any projectile fired at him back to the sender. So we have to wait another turn before we can attack him. But this is fine, as this allows us to kill even more of his guards. Now, at this point something very funny happened. Unfortunately, I don't have a very good view at it on my recording, but essentially what happened is that the trap next to Gortash malfunctioned, which caused him to get a debuff that makes him vulnerable to all elemental damage for one turn. And it's safe to say this couldn't happen at a better time, as this is the turn where we are now finally able to attack him. It's a bit unfortunate that we didn't get a critical hit, so no one turn kill this time. Anyway, Gortash turns into the avatar of tyranny and immediately gets knocked off his feet from our reverberation. Alright, with Gortash laying on the ground, we finish him off with 2 humanoid slaying arrows and then kill the remaining 2 guards. Just make sure to move away from Gortash's body after you killed him, if you don't want to get crushed by Bane's fist. Now, before we can face the Netherbrain, there is still an undead dragon slumbering beneath the city that we need to take out. Again, we will use the Amulet of Greater Health and the Krater Flesh Claws in this fight, since Ansur is immune to poison and because of his greater worm scales, standard damage stacking is very ineffective against him.
What's inside?
When fighting Ansur, we first will interact with his corpse without any pre-buffs. By interacting with his corpse, we trigger his spawn, but instead of fighting him, we immediately run away and disengage. We then do our pre-buffs, and with the help of an invisibility potion, we are now able to trigger a surprise attack against him. Sure, this might be a bit cheesy, but it's the best way to fight him. In our first 2 turns, we simply stay in front of him, inflicting him with piercing vulnerability and shoot dragon slaying arrows at him. At the end of our second turn, we then use a Misty Step scroll to teleport away and fly to the corridor in front of the boss fight room. This has the simple reason that in Honor mode, Ansur's Stormheart Nova attack also causes rain inside his arena, which would afflict us with lightning vulnerability. Safe to say, this is very bad against one of the hardest hitting bosses in the game. However, inside this corridor there will be no rain, which means as long as we are inside this corridor we won't get the lightning vulnerability, making us a lot more tanky against his attacks. Additionally, his Stormheart Nova attack also can't reach us here. So now we just sit here and wait until Ansur comes closer to hit us with his lightning breath. Once he's done that, we can come out and attack him again. Just don't overdo it. Sure, because of the gloves of the automaton, we don't have lightning weakness while we are out here, but we also don't have protection. So he still can easily kill us if we don't have full HP. So better to play it safe. And if this means the fight will take a few turns longer, so be it. Still better than dying so close at the end. Once Ansur enters his Stormheart Resolve, there is no reason to attack him. He will lose his extra 100 HP anyway after doing his Stormheart Nova attack. So just retreat back into the corridor and finish him once he did his attack. For the final fight, we again are going to use the Quarter Flash Gloves. We do this because since this is the final fight, we now have the most bloody inheritance condition from becoming Bhaal's Chosen. And combined with our crit improving melee weapons, we now have a high chance to land critical hits. Other than that, we will use our standard equipment. There is an argument to be made to use the Greater Health Amulet, but I think the Poison Amulet is better. I will explain why when we get there. Now, before we go up and face the Netherbrain, it's very important that we drop the Resonance Stone, because the Netherbrain will hit us with unavoidable psychic damage once we entered its mind. Now, since the latest patch, it's no longer possible to skip the fight on top of the Netherbrain, because the game will remove your invisibility at the start of the fight if you pre-buffed yourself with it. But you actually still can skip most of the fight on top of the Netherbrain, and that is by simply using invisibility after the fight started. Of course, I know the Netherbrain will remove your invisibility of some of your characters, depending how close you are, but it only does this at the end of the round, so none of the enemies will be able to react on it if you have the first move. And if you combine this with a flying potion, you will be able to cross the entire top of the Netherbrain in one turn, at least with your own character. For my summons, I purposely didn't turn them invisible, because this way I can use them as baits, so that the dragon and the countermeasure will not interfere while we take out the illiterate Arcanists. On our second turn, we will focus all our power of killing the Arcanists. This is of utmost importance because these guys can kill you in seconds with their level 6 magic missiles, which makes them by far the most dangerous enemy unit in this fight. And this is also the reason why I think the Poison Amulet is better than the Greater Health Amulet, because with the Poison Amulet we have more damage, which makes it more likely that we can kill the Arcanists in one hit. Unfortunately at this point it did a very devastating misclick. Yeah, through this misclick I am now unable to use the Emperor's flying ability to then try and stun the last remaining Arcanists. On the bright side, it's only one Arcanist because of my critical hits against the other three. This allows us to use a flying potion to fly out of his range and then hope he will just stay there, because this is what I do. On our third turn we start channeling Caster's Compulsion and kill the remaining Arcanist. Then we use Sanctuary on the Emperor, because as you can see all of our summons are dead and the countermeasure is already on its way back here. Successful hypnotic pattern. I'm really getting tested here at the final stretch of this challenge. 2 turns done, and we are the last one still sitting on top of the Netherbrain. At least the dragon is still far away, so there's still a good chance we will survive this. Only bad part is that the game won't let me watch what's going on once I end the turn with the Emperor. Well, at least the Emperor already can deal some damage to the Netherbrain, which is not really an advantage, but you know, gotta stay positive. Alright, 2 turns later and we survived. Didn't even take any damage. I don't know why they didn't attack me, but I certainly won't complain. Anyway, before we enter the mind of the Netherbrain, we will attack the Netherbrain with the Emperor, so we won't get hit by its brain quake. This also allows us to use a speed potion without having to fear of going lethargic from the brain quake. Like the Illithids, the brain counts as an aberration, so we can use our aberration slaying arrows for double damage. Because of the Netherbrain's ages of the absolute ability, we won't be able to deal any damage to it on our next turn. So all we can do is to fly to one of the platforms that won't get destroyed this turn. Which unfortunately means leaving the last two platforms that allowed us to inflict piercing vulnerability to the Netherbrain. Now, before we attack the Netherbrain again, we fly to a safe platform. This might look a bit odd considering the Netherbrain's HP, but our speed potion is still active, so there is still a chance that we could go lethargic from the brain quake, which then would kill us. But now for real, let's finish this. Thank you for watching. For those who are interested in a build guide for this one, I plan to upload one this weekend. Alright, that's all. I will see you all in the next video. But first, it's time to meet our heroes and rid this world of all evil once and for all.
What are you doing? No!
You've butchered so many before, each death a gift to your father. This one, you will take from him. This one is just for you.